I want people to know that it's not always dandelions and roses when you're doing something like Aladdin. Aladdin is a good soul. He is very selfless and usually does things for other people, but as he falls in love, he loses himself a little bit and starts to become someone that he is not. But he is a person with good intentions and has good people surrounding him who lead him back to where he is supposed to be. A good learner learns from everything. I love my parents and we have a terrific relationship. They have been very supportive of my career choice. I went through it in high school. It's like, who am I? Am I good enough? Is my background good enough? I know I'm different, but do I have a voice? There is such a peace out in the middle of the desert. There's nothing like it. I was very different than everybody else growing up. I spoke a different language at home, I ate different food, and I looked different. So I could always relate to Aladdin in that way, being the outcast. I'm pretty good at going incognito. Guy Ritchie likes to ground things in realism. Growing up, I didn't see anybody with my skin color or my background. I didn't know it was possible to have a Middle Eastern actor in a lead role. You never know how things will work out. There's always a wild card or two when you're casting. I'm usually the wild card. In a room of Caucasian guys, a director might be like, okay, let's see, like, two guys who aren't. And maybe they'll be the wild card choice. I think since Aladdin, my expectations for things releasing and what they're going to do in my career, I've had to really pull them back. My parents knew about the story of Aladdin far before the animation film. It's a folk tale that is very prevalent in Egypt. I have two older sisters. My first professional gig was on a show called Nikita, and I played Al-Qaeda No. 2. At that time I had to take those roles because I just wanted to get my foot in the door. I grew up speaking Arabic at home. Growing up in a Mediterranean household ruined my taste buds a little bit because my mom, my sisters, and my aunt were all great cooks, and ever since I went plant-based, I've been missing a little bit of that Mediterranean affection. I grew up loving okra. I don't like the word vegan on its own, and the reason I started evolving vegan is because the people associated with that word can be very militant. It's a funny thing that's happening online. The Middle Easterners want Aladdin to be a Middle Eastern story, and the Indians want Aladdin to be an Indian story. The truth is, it's really a folk tale from the 1800s, and Agrabah is a fictional place that's a culmination of India and Asia and the Middle East. In fact, in the original folk tale, Aladdin was actually of Chinese descent. So what we wanted to do with this was represent as many different cultures from that part of the world as possible. I can't compete for roles that require me to be Caucasian or African American, even if those characters really connect with me and intrigue me. Actions speak louder than words, and the best way to set an example is to just go out and do a good job. My exercise regime for the film was really intense. I'd work out with a trainer 6 days a week, and then I had a stunt rehearsal team that would do boxing, stretching, and a little bit of parkour. And yet, people don't get to see me shirtless in this movie. I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but this Aladdin wears a shirt. I always view auditions as the first and last time I'll ever do a character, so that's how I like to see the joy in it. Assuming I don't ever book this, I get to play this character this one time and give it my all because I'll never play it again. You've got to have confidence that the universe is working out for you. As artists, we have an extraordinary and rare privilege to tell the stories of our people, our land, our culture. They grip us, tear us apart, and put us back together. We are our stories. When we represent all cultures with sensitivity and truth, we foster a society that supports all people. When we uplift artists who reflect diverse perspectives, their stories not only tell us how people view others, but how they view themselves. My wish would be for positive representation and more diversity coming from Hollywood. I think Middle Eastern hair is very resilient. I grew up on Abdul Halim Hafez and Esmail Yassin, a great comedic actor. I think Adel Imam also changed and revolutionized the game and comedy in Egypt. We're trying to give back to artists of color and make the journey for them a little easier. Aladdin was one of the few things that I watched as a kid where I was like, oh, that guy looks like me and has a similar culture to mine. We've got to celebrate all diverse artists and actors, and Aladdin does that really well. I've always envisioned working with the best directors in the world. Christoph Waltz, blew up in Hollywood at a very old age. He won 2 Oscars back-to-back, so I thought, you know what? Even if it happens when I'm 50, that's fine. You know, I'll always keep going, always keep trying. We don't tell Canadian stories enough. I can't change what casting directors do or what producers do. I can only change what I do. How often do we get to go to the biggest cinemas in the world and see diverse actors make up the majority of the cast? I would wish we would get to a place of colorblind casting, where it didn't matter what color skin you are, where you came from, anybody could play anybody and we didn't judge it. Art is very subjective, and having to put numbers on it seems counterintuitive. We immigrated when I was 3.5 years old, to Toronto, but I'm still very, very close to my culture and, back home in Egypt. We're Coptic Christian. I try to support all the women in my life, so absolutely, Aladdin tries to do that as well, and rightfully so. I think it's time we start chipping away at the stereotypes in Hollywood about the Middle East and the Arab world, because it's one of the most beautiful regions in the world. I was told growing up that the arts were just a hobby, that I couldn't do it as a career. I put in my time, I worked hard, and I followed my dreams. We've got to be able to get to a point where we represent everybody equally. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.